They didn't learn from Iron Man 2. Too bad. Avengers Age of Ultron came out in 2015. It is the sequel to Avengers and all the other Avengers movies before this Winter Soldier or Dark World, Iron Man 3. And this movie brings back the Avengers and has them fighting the robot Ultron, who was created by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner because, well, they want robots to save the world instead of them so that the world's a safer place. Now, when this movie was coming out, I was super excited for it. Thought it was going to be way better than the first, and then I saw it. It's not at all. There's some really great moments in this movie. The thing that I love so much about the first one was the action sequences and the character development. This movie does have a lot of character development. Hawkeye is actually more of a character. We see more of his life. We see his wife and children. We get a lot more from Tony in the sense of his PTSD. We get more from Cap and Thor and all the characters that we love. And then there's some other things that we get that I'm not the biggest fan of. The Hulk, Bruce Banner, Black Widow relationship is out of nowhere, and it really doesn't go anywhere in this movie. We also get introduced to Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, and they're just kind of introduced. I don't think we got enough from it. I never really did like this Quicksilver. Part of that could be we didn't get much from him. The Russian accents that they're doing are terrible. Holy crap. I have enjoyed Wanda more and more in each movie. I think the movie I really get the most from her, though, starting is Captain America Civil War, which she has less screen time in, I think, or about equal screen time. I think she's just handled better later on down the way. This movie, she's just kind of thrown in there. The twins are just kind of there to be there because we need to introduce them. That's the thing about this movie that I really hate. It did what Iron Man 2 did. This movie just is trying to set up more things down the line. There's the Thor hot tub time machine scene. There's this Black Widow Hulk relationship that never goes anywhere going forward, really. The twins are brought in. Vision is brought in, which I actually think his introduction is really great. Now, there is a lot to love in this movie. The action sequences are pretty ding-dang great. We have the Hulk Buster Hulk scene, and it is amazing. We have the opening scene, which is fairly good. The ending scene is really good. Decently good. It feels pretty much the same as the Avengers. I would say that this movie feels very similar to the Avengers. There are reports that Whedon was forced to put in a lot of these scenes that he didn't want to put in. There was rumors that this movie was actually supposed to be like 3 hours long, and they cut it to 2.5. It kind of shows. It kind of shows that he was being forced to do these things. It kind of shows this movie should have been longer. There was also rumors that Whedon was exhausted making this movie and he didn't want to do another one, which is why he didn't do another one. This movie shows. This movie feels like the people behind it are exhausted making it. This was around the time that Robert Downey Jr. was negotiating how much he was getting paid for the movies and talking about not wanting to do it anymore. Chris Evans was talking about not wanting to act at all anymore. Not to say that this movie is bad at all, because it's not. It's still a lot of fun. It's just not as good as the first Avengers or some other movies. There's a lot of things that are just kind of thrown in here. What I can really say about this movie is there's a lot of great stuff in here. But it's just not as good as it should have been. I love the scene where they're trying to lift the hammer. It's a great character scene where all the Avengers trying to lift Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. But then we just get the introduction of Ultron after that. First of all, Ultron's just kind of created in 10 seconds, it seems like. Yeah, there's a montage, but it's a montage of 2 days' time. There really isn't much time in the building of Ultron. And then Ultron's just kind of a villain. He does what a lot of villains do. He wants to destroy the world. And it's just, I didn't feel his motivation, I guess, in this movie. Ultron's motivation just wasn't there for me. Another thing I want to bring up about this movie is the really bad product placement. There are moments in this movie where there's product placement and it's fine. But then there are other scenes, using Gillette, for example, where it's just way too obvious and is focused way too much on it. Audi. They're in a poor country and they're driving an Audi car that they just find. It got ridiculous at times. And it took me out of the movie. It really did. And the best thing I can say about this movie is it's just there's a lot of great stuff there. At the end of the day, it just didn't use it as well as it should have. This movie was trying too hard to set up other movies instead of teasing certain things. Instead, it has to show a scene with Thor going to a place that we didn't need to see. It has to introduce the twins. Not really for any reason, but to introduce them. And it just felt unneeded. At the end of the day, though, guys, we go to these movies for awesome action set pieces. And there really is some. There's some really cool moments at the beginning. There's some really cool moments throughout the movie. The Hulkbuster scene's amazing. The big ending finale, there's a lot of cool action sequences. This movie is still fun. It's just not the level of what Avengers was. Not the level of what the later Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, were. This movie is just kind of paint-by-numbers Marvel movie with a lot of things being thrown in there to set up other movies. That in the end of the day, let's talk again about this Thor. I've talked about this scene a couple times now, but the Thor hot tub time machine. It's setting up Ragnarok and Infinity War, but really, what did it all set up? Nothing in this scene has really played back to the future. Yes, Thor finds out about the Infinity Stones. There could have been other ways that we found out about these Infinity Stones, instead of Thor going to a hot tub and having a vision of the stones. And really, how did that pay off for Infinity War? We didn't need these things necessarily, and it just drags down the movie. It bogs down the movie. It's so disappointing because there's so many great things about this movie. And there's some things this movie does do better. I think some of the action sequences are better than the first one. I love that we get more about Hawkeye. I love this scene with the Avengers lifting the hammer. There's a lot of great stuff here. The Hulkbuster scene. There's a lot of great stuff here. At the end of the day, it's bogged down by these other unnecessary things. Still a fun movie to watch. It's just probably towards the bottom of the list of my Marvel movies because it's just trying too hard to set things up the way Iron Man 2 did. At the end of the day, guys, like I said, don't hate this movie. I still have fun with it. I've still watched it. It's just a little bit more forgettable. There's not a whole heck of a lot here that's amazing. It's still good. At the end of the day, though, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. Tonight, I'm going to see Black Widow. I actually want to do a spoiler review of Captain America Civil War 2 because I watched the movie last night. It's freaking amazing. So, probably going to have a spoiler review up later today too. Black Widow either tonight or Friday. I got a lot to do. So, I'm going to get on that. We'll talk to you soon.